Today we're going to be making some Christmas cards, really simple designs that you can basically just make in a few minutes. We'll talk about how to make them quick, we'll talk about how to make them easy and repeatable so that you have a process where you can make 5, 10, 15 Christmas cards without spending hours and hours on it. Now the main things I'm going to be using are a waterproof pen. I happen to be using my TWSBI fountain pen today with waterproof carbon ink in it, this ink here. Little set of watercolours and just a couple of small brushes. And then we have the choice about paper. So you have options here. You could use a big sheet of paper and just divide it into sort of cards, and then you can draw on one bit, fold it over. Simple. What I'm actually going to do today is I'm going to use my little pack of postcards. These are just See White to Brighten, 12 simple little watercolour postcards. And you can also get pre-made watercolour cards as well as folding your own. So there's loads of options, but using a nice quality watercolour paper will make your painting much easier to create lovely cards and still cheaper than buying any cards. And like that, we're just going to dive in and go for it. I'm actually going to be able to use my paper here to illustrate a few things, to play with some ideas and then transfer them into simple ideas on the card. So let's just go for it. Like I said, when we are creating cards, what we want is a nice and simple idea. So often a good way of achieving that is if we have our card, let's say this is the full size of our card. Instead of trying to fill the full image, so I try and do a bauble or something like a simple bauble and fill that full image. That's going to take a lot longer. It's going to be hard to make it neat and hard to make it just cute and pretty. So a really simple, really lovely Christmas card idea, one you may have seen in shops like Etsy, is to have little illustrations in the middle. So perhaps you want this bauble idea, we can do these little circles and they don't have to join up. Actually having them loose and sketchy and slightly higgledy-piggledy, having that kind of swirl of a line is a really neat way to create a cute little scene in the middle. Then if you wanted, you could write above it, or you could join them up, or you can even just give these really long kind of strands coming down. And then, having just done a simple practice, got the idea in, let's jump and just put this idea into practice. So what I'm going to do on my card, whatever kind of card surface you're using, is I'll start with my baubles. I might make them a little bit bigger than I have over there, but still the idea of just not trying to fill the page and having them loose and swirly, maybe even have them overlap as well. Give them each the same little top like that, little top here, and then have a nice dangly line. And the dangly line I'm going to have all reach the same kind of point. And that is enough of a bit of a line drawing to then have some fun with beautiful colours. So a nice way to make your colours instantly interesting is, instead of colouring first, add some water first. So I'm going to add water kind of around the outside of my baubles. Can do the same on each of these baubles, coming all the way around, just getting the outsides nice and full of water. And I've got quite a puddle there, you can hopefully see the light reflecting. Do the same around here, and where they overlap we can have those colours mingle. And now all I need is a little bit of tissue so I can control the colour and the water on my brush, and we can jump in and use some really simple colours. So I'm taking cobalt blue, primary blue, and look, if I just touch that in now, I get these kind of flowing, looping, lovely colours. I can come around, I can do little paint marks as well around the edge, and then let's just move on and leave that. So I'm going to take now primary red, Scarlet Lake, primary red, bold colour. Again, just touch that in, let it loop round, let it flow through where all that colour's gone. And we can do a little splash in the middle as well if we want, something like that. Maybe then soften that up with some more water. Then down here, let's do another lovely bright colour, one which can blend and mingle with that red. And I'm going to use a yellow. So basically we've got primary colours going on. That's another way to keep these things really simple, really light and loose. And here we go, nice little touches, get those kind of paint marks in there. And now we could call that done. It's already quite a pretty little card. It's only taken us a couple of minutes. Equally, we could come back and we could just get a little bit more complexity going in some of these colours. So perhaps for me, a little bit more of that blue, just to make it richer in places. And if we wanted, we could then start actually adding second tones of blue. So maybe some cobalt turquoise to go with that cobalt blue. Little touches in there just to lift it, give it a tiny bit more variation. A few more of these lines, just giving the idea of reflections coming off. I also love it when these colours blend and merge, so I might even encourage a bit of linking between those two baubles. Over on this yellow one, maybe something like a quinacridone sienna, just to come around here and give it a kind of dark edge. So we're just playing here, really. We've got primary colours, and then within the primary colours we're just playing with kind of analogous colours, colours which are similar to those primary colours, that enable us to just create a little bit more life, a little bit more fun. Here you go, a few more of our little kind of reflection lines, and that is probably enough of our colour work done. Now all I need to do is just let this dry, and we can come and add the finishing touches. But you could imagine that you do 4 or 5 of these, then by the time you finish the 5th, you'll be able to come back and your page will already have dried. And here we are pretty much dry, not entirely dry, but mostly dry. And that means we can come back and maybe just clean up some of these edges. So I don't want to get my ink too much into that colour, but look, it's going to blend in a few places, and I'm okay with that. What I'm doing is I'm pressing quite hard with my pen to just firm up some of these outlines to sort of give it a little bit more of that definite illustrative feel. Now that line that's gone and burst out, we can leave that, or we can have a little go at fixing that in a moment. But I'm not going to worry about it as I go. I'm going to let this ink sort of blend and flow in as well. And you can tell from that I haven't let it completely dry. And for me that's important because I want to be able to come back with my colours in a moment and add a sort of soft extra layer. So I'm just going to do a little bit of bolding up some of these outlines, and that's probably all that I feel the need to do. Put my pen back away, and now as long as we've got our bit of tissue and our brush, we can lift some of that ink out. Again, we can move it around, give it a more effective shadow, even just take advantage of what's happened. Same here, we can just move it around, give it a more effective shadow. And then what I want to do, just enhance a couple of these colours. So we've lost a bit of that yellow from the red mixing and from the quinacridone sienna, but that's all right. We just re-enliven some of that yellow. Same with some of our red, just a little touch, just little bits to make it punchy. I'm going to base it around some of these like loose lines as well that we've got. The blue I think is actually held up quite well, so just a little touch of blue maybe in a couple of places, and a little touch of that turquoise as well in a couple of places. Then above that we've got this bauble top, so I'm going to give that a gold, little quinacridone gold here as well, and then a few splashes just going up, and then the same again coming around these baubles. We'll just get some gentle splashes, and hopefully you're starting to see our very simple Christmas card number 1 kind of coming to life on the page. Just really, really easy, simple, light touch ideas. And there we go. So that is Christmas card number 1. And you hopefully get the idea. Keep things small, simple, repeatable, loose so that the colours flow and do all the work for you. And in no time you could have made 5, 10 of these different cards. So another personal favourite of mine is something like a robin. I actually do a robin every year. And you may have seen my robin featured on my latest cards. And I always do about the same thing because I just think it's a really fun little illustration. Here, just a simple continuous line. We just practice a few times until we're confident that our version of our robin, we're happy with it, and it sort of says what we want it to say. And this is my version here, but if we break it down, what have we got? We've got a circle for the head, got an overlapping circle for the body, tiny little sort of shape here, and little feet. And then when you join that together and you just give it a more natural kind of flow, what you'll end up with is, a pretty reliable little robin. Little beak, little eye, and don't forget the red belly and the wing, and we've got our robin. So just have a little practice. You can make them really tiny as well, so you can really fit them into the middle of your card, like I was saying, or you can make them quite big. I'm going to go somewhere in between, so I'm going to keep them about this size, and perhaps give them something to stand on as well to link the whole image together. And because we practiced, hopefully we feel ready just to go for it. So I'm going to start with the head, keeping this little chappy in mind so that I sort of keep a relatively consistent idea between my cards. That consistency is what's going to help you create lots of little cards very quickly. Then we'll get the red belly in, we'll get the wing in, maybe just give him his little cap at the top as well if we want. They tend to have a little brown cap at the top, and there we go. And what I'm going to do is just do another sort of facing in a different direction. This is what we often do in cards, isn't it? But of course, robins themselves are rather territorial birds, so they're not often found together. But we're allowed to do what we want. It's our little bit of art after all, our little bit of fun. And there we go, we just have this one sort of facing away. Maybe that's why they are territorial. They're not getting on, they're just about allowing each other to exist in the other's company. And like that, we can just connect them and make this image kind of have a little flow by having a little twig, maybe with some little leaves on it underneath. That just enables our image to feel connected, feel more full. And we're ready to just touch in some really gentle colours. Again, this is designed to be simple and repeatable. We want to create easy cards, things which we can actually do over and over. So we focus, therefore, on the key bits. And what's the key bit? Well, our lovely red belly. So a little bit of red in there. Then they kind of have this kind of, for me, it's always a little bit of a blue shadow in here. So I'm going to let that blue just gently be on there. And then we get this kind of gentle, neutral kind of brownish colour on the rest of them. So just a little touch of that gentle brown in. Now if we want, what we can do, we can just soften some of these colours together and let them blend. And we can come and find perhaps some other more interesting bits around. Maybe we get a nice brown flowing through our branch and a little bit of a green as well, just into these leaves. And like that, again, we're basically ready just to let this soften out, let it dry, and then we can come back and add those finishing touches. And we're back, we're nice and dry, and all I'm going to do is just enrich some of those colours and maybe add a little bit of yellow to my red so that we can get a slightly more orange. Just fill up the rest of our little birdie here. Maybe even a bit of quinacridone could come in just to really give that a more warm feel. Then I think the other bit I'd like to just enrich is the feeling of these wings. Just give them a more sort of wholehearted brown. And down into our branch, I just want to pull that apart. So I'm going to put a little bit more of a darker tone in there as well. And again, simple, repeatable ideas. Nothing too complicated, nothing too clever. And in no time, we can just add a few flicks and we've created another card. Now, just to finish these guys off, just like before, to give it that more illustrative, sort of finalised character, I'm going to come back in and just do a bolder line. That bolder line is going to let us just encapsulate these little chappies, really get their kind of structure clear, separate out the colours, give them a nice little black bit to their beak, and just make them a bit more controlled. Even though things are still loose, they just get that suggestion of a bit more control if we just come in with some of these bolder lines. Maybe even give them a little bit more of a firm object to be standing on, and ready to basically say, yeah, that's another little card done. Quick, easy, and I think quite successful. I'd be very happy to send that off to someone. And again, if you wanted, you could write on it, you could make things bigger, you could fill more space. But I like those little delicate cards, just like this one. Now, what's next? Let's do another simple, fun idea. Gonna have to move my little pad to one side to do our practice run this time. And let's do another final classic kind of theme. So let's do a snowman, and a snowman can be split just into circles. We do 3 circles, but we can then sit him on something. We can give him a surrounding, maybe we give him a couple of poles to either side, going off at slightly wonky angles, and then some little lights underneath. And then we can start thinking about details, so maybe arms, maybe he gets little buttons. And as long as we've got this idea in, and you just practice this idea a few times, work out how you want to sort of ink in your snowman. Do you want to do it as a continuous line? Do you want to do it as 1, 2, 3 different balls? How many buttons do you want? Just play with these ideas, and then you're ready just to jump in again. So let's jump in, and I'll do a sort of fleshed out version of my snowman card. So what I'm going to do, start again in the middle, keep things nice and small in the centre here. I'm going to start with the head, that feels like the important bit to get right. And then come round, and each ball this time is going to sort of overlap the one above it, because that's a bit more realistic, isn't it, about how you would actually expect the sort of some big snowballs to interact. Little buttons, I'm going to give him buttons which join him up all the way, leave them there. His arms can actually come out, if they come out just in front, we can give him a kind of little armpit there as well. Just makes him feel a bit more 3D. Little eyes, and let's give him a carrot for a nose. And get him on the ground like we did before. Maybe even give him a couple of little ruffles of snow coming around here. And I do actually rather like the idea of having a couple of poles going up to either side of him. Then between those poles there can be these little Christmas lights. So if we just do a little looping wire that's going between, then all we need to do is some little balls. And that's going to be another great place to add a little punch of colour, because the snowman's going to be white. And from there we just come back to get our brush. This time the snow is white, but we're focusing on the shadows. So where the shadow is going to be, kind of going to be around on one side, and the same around on one side here. Not quite enough water on my brush there. So we got a little bit of a blue shadow, a little bit of that ink joining my shadow as well. Again, for me, I quite enjoy that, but for you, you might not. So do take your time, let the ink dry, maybe do 4 or 5 of the ink illustrations before coming back to the adding the colour. Get that shadow consistent down here, consistent with these poles as well, and with these little ruffles. Then that's probably already dry enough that I can come in with just a deeper blue, mix a little bit of orange into the blue, and that will neutralise it. And now I can give a little bit more of a kind of higher value shadow just in a couple of places. And just like so, we're ready to start adding punches of colour. So let's start with nice orange for the carrot nose. We can reflect that orange down here, just let it sort of jump around the page a little bit. You can have a little bit of orange coming down in his buttons as well. And maybe we just start adding the colour into the light. So red and red, just like our baubles, we'll go red, blue, and then some yellow in the other ones. Yellow and yellow here. And we've got one left over, so let's do a little bit of green. And that green we can then sort of splash into here as well, just a little bit, little touches. Oh, I've missed another one out. So we can go for another bit of, let's do another bit of, sort of, let's do an orange there. We'll get them all different. And what else can we add to this card at the moment? Well, we could do a couple of more little splashes. I do love doing the splashes on cards. Again, just a nice way to individualise each card, to make it sort of fill with colour even though it's really simple. And then I think we can come back again. I'm just going to use some dark stuff in my palette, a little bit of that blue, a little bit of that orange, and we can just get a tiny bit more shadow. Don't want to overdo it. This still wants to just be a nice and simple card. And like that, I think those colours are done. We can repeat the same process as before. So we're going to come in, nice bold line. Again, I would encourage you to just do 4 or 5, do all the colours, then do all of the retouching maybe after the first one, just get your confidence with one, and then once you've got your design down, you'll be able to just jump in and add the final touches all at once as well. And then in about 20, 30, 40 minutes, you'll probably produce loads of cards that you're very proud of, very happy to send off. And there you go, my 3 little Christmas cards. Simple ideas, which I hope you can either copy or take inspiration from, or find your own things that you'd like to do. So thank you everyone for watching my little sketching videos. If you enjoy my content, please do subscribe to my channel because it makes me really, really happy. Thanks again.